truck from a dealership and then leasing it with a carrier like Crete. Not as easy as you think it should be. You know, when you go to a car dealership like Chevrolet, you know, you can pretty much get that car the same day. Uh, Pretty easy to buy a personal vehicle. It's not as easy buying a Class 8 commercial truck. I think the carrier makes it harder than the dealer. The dealer here, I'm working with truck center companies, Freightliner dealer. They're doing everything they can, and that's very helpful. The dealership is more helpful than the carrier. Um, I think there's just a lot of hoops you have to jump through. I think it's easier to buy the truck from the carrier and then get leased on with the carrier. That's the easy route. Um, is it designed that way on purpose? I don't know. It could be. It could be that they make it more challenging to buy a truck from the dealer than to buy from the carrier itself. Or it just could be more convenience that, the way the carrier operates, they got everything set up for in-house truck purchases. Either way, it's easier to buy a truck from the carrier than it is to buy a truck from the dealer. And one of the reasons is because here at Crete, for example, it you have to your truck has to pass the DOT inspection from Crete before you sign the lease. Okay, and then insurance comes into play because the truck is at the dealership and it has to be transported to a Crete terminal. So I bought a truck from Minnesota and it's being delivered to Lincoln, Nebraska, which is fine. Dealer's doing that free of charge. The dealer here is an example. The dealer's bending over backwards to get this done. Um, if you wanted to get on Crete's insurance through their another company called Capital Casualty, it's difficult because you have to have the truck at the terminal. It has to pass DOT inspection. Then you have to sign the lease, and then you get the insurance. If you're buying the truck from the dealership, you're probably going to take out a loan, and the loan asks who's your insurance provider, which would be Capital Casualty typically if you're with Crete. But you can't get the loan approved until you have the insurance. You can't get the insurance until the truck is delivered to the terminal and inspected and a lease signed, and then you're added to the policy. It's screwy. So I end up going with OOIDA, and here's another complication with the insurance. I actually got better insurance for less costs through OOIDA, which was great. Um, but the insurance doesn't take effect until the lease is signed. So again, the truck has to be delivered to the Crete terminal, has to pass DOT inspection, has to have the lease signed, and then you're covered under the insurance. So you couldn't, for example, pick up the truck from the dealership and then drive it to the terminal. That would make far too much sense. However, OOIDA does have a 5-day policy you can purchase for that purpose. So like say, you bought your truck in, I don't know, let's say you bought it in West Virginia. Crete doesn't have a terminal in West Virginia. So you need to drive it to a Crete terminal. You can get a 5-day policy from OIDA to transport. I think you can. That's what they presented to me. But the dealer I was working with, truck center companies in Minnesota, they were willing to deliver the truck for free to Lincoln, Nebraska. So I didn't go with the 5-day policy. But it's there. It's possible. There's other requirements. Crete requires a bill of sale. That's okay. They need the loan application, so I gotta get that. and they need the application for the title and which state it's going to be registered in. And they need all that stuff so they can get the plates and registration for the truck. See, if you do this, if you buy the truck from Crete, all this stuff happens seamlessly, without any hiccup. You get your insurance, you get your DOT inspection, you sign the lease, they get your plates and registration. Everything is, a smooth, seamless process. If you buy a truck from a dealership, it becomes a little more complicated. Not because of the dealership, but because of Crete's requirements. So I ended up not getting the insurance through Crete or Capital Casualty. I ended up going through OIDA, and the dealer is going to have to deliver the truck to the terminal, which is fine. And then I got to get all this documentation from the dealer to give to Crete so they can register the truck. So it's a little more cumbersome, a little extra layer of complexity there. I think it works in the carrier's benefit to have rookie owner operators buy trucks from Crete. They make that a simple, seamless process. For guys who are going on their second, third truck, I recommend you guys go to the dealership. I especially like truck center companies, the Freightliner dealership. And I bought a Peterbilt from them. It has a Cummins, so Freightliner is a Cummins service location. They can do that. You can buy a Freightliner with a Cummins in it. It doesn't have to be a Detroit diesel. But the dealership is doing everything they can, which is great. It's just the bureaucracy, trying to comply with the carrier's bureaucracy. And you can't get around it, it's just the way it is. That's why I say you can buy a truck from a dealership, but it doesn't come easy. Not as easy as buying it from the carrier. It can be done, obviously, I'm doing it, but you should be prepared to face some obstacles and then try to overcome those obstacles. I think this is why I've met many owner operators who just keep buying trucks from Crete over and over and over again, because Crete makes it simple and easy. But I will say that I looked at a Crete truck in Marietta. It was not ready to go, and then I looked at the truck from truck center companies, and it was in great condition. The engine was spotless. It was professionally detailed. It was ready to go to work on day one. And for the money I would have spent on a Crete truck, I got this Peterbilt instead, with a Thermo King Tri-Pack APU and a grill guard and a brand new refrigerator for the same price. So I think there's tremendous value there if you go through the dealership to buy your second, third truck. Plus, you're going to build your business credit, because now your truck payments are going to be reported on PayNet, which is going to help you establish business credit. So when you buy from Crete, you're not building business credit. They'll give you a fancy letter. I mean, it's nice. It's a nice letter. I got one. It says that you purchased a truck and you made all your payments. That's nice. But what lenders really want to see is that the payments on your credit report. You can't get that from Crete. Crete doesn't spend the money to report your payments. I don't know why. It's just that it costs money to do that, and they don't want to spend the money for whatever reason. So when you buy a truck from a dealership, now you go through PayNet. They're going to report all your credit, all your payments to your credit report. So from my perspective, you got better equipment for the same price, and you're building business credit. All your payments are being reported, and you don't have no speed limiter, no required maintenance account, no strings attached. So I think that's great. Is it a little more cumbersome? A little more obstacles to overcome? Yeah, it's a little more challenging, to overcome the bureaucracy when you're buying from a dealership than it is to simply buy it from Crete. But I think it's worth it. I wish I would have done this on my second truck. You know, I ended up buying 2 trucks from Crete. I should have only bought one. You know, and I think I would have traded that first truck in when it reached about 700,000 miles, between 700 and 750,000 miles, whenever that warranty expires. Trade it in, get you another truck, second truck, start building your business credit, you know, free up your finances from that required maintenance account, get rid of that speed limiter, and you know, be able to grow your business going forward. A little more work, but I think it's worth it. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the internet.